Okay, we're in Simon Kuf Yud Ches. That's the Dine Achonas HaSeder, the dinim of the preparation for the Seder. We started a little bit last week, just a review a drop. He talks about having good wine, and it seems like in those times, most of the grapes were green grapes, so the popular wine was the white wine, but more choshev wine is the red wine. So you should try to have red wine for the Seder. And we also learned about the first dipping of the karpas. And incidentally, today, when we take the karpas, we take less than a shear of the karpa, less than a shear of a kazayas. The reason we take less than a shear of a kazayas is because there's a question that if you had more than a shear, you should perhaps make a bracha achrayna after you finish it. But we don't necessarily do that. And the halacha is that even if you ate more, you don't make a bracha achrayna because it's a suffix brachas. And incidentally, I didn't mention this last week, but the Alter Rebbe says in Shulchan Aruch that for karpas you take a vegetable on which you make hadama when it's raw. In other words, there are different customs amongst people or different ways of people's life. There were, for example, carrots. There was a time when people didn't eat carrots raw. They only ate carrot cooked. That's what's called a tzimis. So if someone would eat a raw carrot, not cooked, he'd have to make a shako. Or a better example yet, people take, for karpas, they take a potato. And the potato is cooked. Why is it cooked? Because on a raw potato you don't make adama, because you don't need it raw. We take onion, and apparently, because we eat onion raw, in Russia most probably, people ate raw onions. So therefore, if they ate raw onions, so they could use it to dip in and to make the bracha bar pi adama. And why do we really want you should take adama? Because we want that you should have in mind also the mora, which you'll be eating later after you wash. Becomes a question, if you eat something during the meal, so you don't have to make a bracha, like if you're eating a piece of chicken. You don't have to make a bracha, it's part of the meal. Over here, there's a question, is this mora just like having a vegetable that comes as a side dish for the main dish? Then you don't have to make a bracha. But over here, it's not that reason. Over here, it's especially because of the mitzvah we eat the mora. So you should be making a bracha adama. So therefore, we rely on the bracha that we made by the karpas. So the important thing to know is that what problems that come up in America, not every vegetable in America grows from the ground. There's people that have ways of planting on the water. What are they called? Hydroponic. And many people hold that by hydroponic you don't make a bracha adama. You make a bracha, it doesn't come from the ground. You make a bracha shehakol. There are maybe someone that says that you should make adama on that, but it's definitely a suffix brachas. And if it's a suffix bracha, so it's hard to say you should definitely make adama. So I noticed that there's certain people are concerned about bugs in the vegetable. So there's certain companies that they say, oh, this company is good, you don't have to check them. Now, and it says on it that it's hydroponic. So maybe if it's hydroponic, then it's not hadama. So you should be careful when you purchase these things. Be careful about it. Now we also learned about the charaisis, and what we learned about charaisis, which is especially important for this year, because when you make the charaisis, we don't put in the different spices that people put in to resemble like the straw that they used in making the cement or the mortar, but we grind the apple, let's say, or pear, and mix it with nuts. So then later, usually, before the meal, after we finish drinking the second kais, so sometimes there's some wine left on the plate that dripped off from the kais, so we use that wine to soften the charaisis. But Shabbos, you're not allowed to do that. So it says in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, and also Alter Rebbe says that charaisis you should prepare before Shabbos and prepare already with some wine in it. It should be like a paste, that not just dry, but it should be like a paste. So if you didn't do it before Shabbos, then you have to do it Aidei Shinu. What does it mean Aidei Shinu? That you put first some wine, let's say, into a dish, and then you put the charaisis on top of that. Usually the way that you do it is that you put the charaisis in a dish, and you put some wine on top of it, and you mix it. So he says, if it wasn't prepared beforehand, then you don't add the wine into the charaisis, but you put the charaisis into the wine. And he even says that you should shake it with the plate or shake it with a finger. You don't want to shake it with a finger, you can put it on a glove, shake it with the glove. But that's the dinam that we learned about till now. Now he goes over here and he talks as follows. We're in Sif Hey. Kishachara Beis HaMikdash. When the Beis HaMikdash was Charav, Tiktok HaChamim Sheyir Al Shulchan B'Shas HaMiyaz HaGoda Shnei Minei Tavshilin. There should be two types of cooked food. Echad Zechel Korban Pesach, ve'echad Zechel Korban Chagiga. Shohayim Akrivim B'zman Shebeis HaMikdash Shohay Kayim. In the time of the Beis HaMikdash, they would make a Korban Pesach. The Korban Pesach was eaten at the end of the meal. It was eaten like a dessert in the meal, but you had to have a main dish also. The Korban Pesach wasn't the main dish. So you leave, you had a Korban Chagiga, which was another animal that was geshachten before Pesach, and that was the meat that you ate. Now that we don't have the Beis HaMikdash, so we're missing these two types of meat. The Nogu, so the minig became Shehei Echad Min Avshilim Yiyah Basa, that one of these cooked items should be meat, V'yiyah Mipedek Anikra Zeraya, and it should be from a part which is called Zeraya. Zeraya means like the arm, or some call it the shanker, or some take there's different minhagim. Our minhag is to take the neck, the neck of the chicken, and zeichel as a commemorating Shagol HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Zrei Netuyah, that the Eibush took out the Yidden with an outstretched arm. V'yeh nitzra al gacholim, it should be roasted on coal. It doesn't have to be dafka roasted on coal. You turn on the gas and you let it burn on the fire. Zeichel Pesach shoyitz liyesh. That's a zeichel to the Korban Pesach, which was also roasted in fire. V'asheni beitza, and the other one should be an egg. Mishum the beitza b'loshen arami. In Aramaic, we don't say beitza, we say be'ah. And what does be'ah mean? So he says, be'ah means wanting. Klema. The boy Rachmana l'mirfrik yasana, b'dra meramama. The Eibishter wanted to take us out, to redeem us with an outstretched arm. V'oisem ha'beitza bein tzluya bein mevushalas. It could be either roasted or cooked. It should be a hard egg. V'tzarech litzaloisam u'levashram me'erev yontav v'ayayim. You have to do the cooking of it on Erev Yontav, much before Yontav. V'im shachach oy shehaya Shabbos. If he forgot or it was Shabbos, so yitzra v'yavasho oysam balayla. Then you can do it at night, because Yontav you're allowed to cook. But the pasuk says, "Achar she'ochachol nefesh hu levada yosel lachem." However, he says, if you made it on Yontif, so then you have to eat it up the first day, because the din is that you're not allowed to cook one day for the second day on Yontif. So therefore, you have to eat it up then. So it's really a problem, because the problem is then that you're eating tzli. Busted tzli, we don't eat roasted meat. We don't eat roasted meat. We don't eat meat that's called pot roast. Pot roast means that it's cooked in a pot, but without any liquids, and it's baked and it's baked like in its own liquid. V'chein b'leil sheni, and again on the second night, yitzraim, he should roast them, v'yavashraim v'yochem, and he should cook it, or he should cook it and eat it. Talking about the egg. B'yontav sheni, ki ein mavashim meyontav lachaveda v'lei meyontav lachol. You can't. If on the second night he cooked it, and he's not going to be eating the egg on the second night, so then he's going to eat a chal moed, right? So then he's preparing on Yontav for chal moed. You're not allowed to do that. L'fi shein oichen basa tzli b'shtei leilas ilu. Oh, he said, here's another problem. If you didn't prepare the zroya and you prepared it on Yontif, so the din is you have to eat it up on Yontif. But we have a din that we don't eat basat tzli on Yontif. So what should you do? He said, Alkain tzarech lechol es hazroya dafka bayayim. During the day, you're allowed to eat tzli. It's just about the Seder we don't eat tzli, because it would look like a Korban Pesach. But during the meal that you eat Yontif day or Shabbos day, you can eat tzli. Now, so you took, let's say in Lubavitch, you took the neck of the chicken, and you took off most of the meat from it, right? Shouldn't have much meat on it. You remove most of the meat, and you roast it. There's hardly anything to eat, or it's burnt. So what should you do with it after the Seder? He says, don't throw it away in the garbage. Okay. This is the egg that we eat at the beginning of the meal. When we have the beginning of the meal, we eat the egg. Some say that the reason why do we eat the egg at the beginning of the meal, so some say because an egg is Michael Avelim. And we know that according to the calendar, the Tisha B'Av is always the same day in the week as the first day of Pesach. From the calendar Ad Bash, where we turn around the letters and the Aleph becomes exchanged by the Tuf. So Ad is the first night of Pesach, is Tisha B'Av. So that's why some say that's the reason why you eat an egg. We'll talk about other reasons also, but just wanted to mention that. Yochem Meshavai Mibayjayim, he should prepare his place early in the day. But Matzah is noise, Kefi Yachaltai, with nice drapery or covering. They used to, especially we have you sit the mesubim, you sit recline. So they make a little beds like a pillow, and there's a cover that goes on top of the pillow. Today they sell special embroidery that should be yontivdik. Uba'ofen sheyuchal lahatais lahosei b'smoila. He should prepare the table in a way that he could recline on his left side. In other words, he's telling you where to put the chair that you're going to be reclining on. Put it on, so to make it to be possible to recline on the left side. Now he says a very interesting din. Vafilahu ita, even if he's a lefty. So we usually know that the lefty does things different than the righty. So you would think that why do you recline on the left side? So you could think that the reason because that's the weakest side, like by tefillin. Why do we put tefillin on the left hand? Because it says so yodacha is spelled yud dalet chaf hey. So we read it as two words, yad keha, the weaker hand. So by a person that's a righty, his strong hand is the right hand, his weak hand is the left hand. So you may think that the reason why we're reclining is because it has to be the left side for some reason. So then if that was the case, what should be the din by a lefty? It should be just the opposite. His weak hand is his right hand. She should recline on the right side. So the Shulchan Aruch says no. He says that a fellow who ita is, even if he's a lefty, yisav, he should recline the small shakal adam on the left that all the righties recline on. What's the reason to that? The reason to that is that reclining has nothing to do with weak hand or strong hand. It has nothing to do with that. Call me in 10 minutes. The reason is because a person in his throat has two pipes. One pipe is a food pipe, and one pipe is a wind pipe. One is called the kona, and one is called the veshet. Now, if the person is eating and the food goes down the wind pipe instead of the food pipe, it could be a very dangerous situation. And therefore, in order to avoid that, we lean on the left side, which will assure that the food doesn't go down to the wind pipe, but will go down to the food pipe. So it has nothing to do, that has nothing to do with righty and lefty. Their pipes, so to say, are both the same. So therefore, everybody has to recline on the left side. Gama kaida yakum mebayjayim. The kaida should also be prepared during the day. Now, this is not according to Bavish Minig. The Bavish Minig is they set the table. The table is set when you come home. The table is set. There's a place, a kaida dish or a kaida napkin, whatever you're using. But the actual kaida itself, we set up before the kiddush. The first thing we do when we come home is we put the matzah into the compartments. State that there should be, our minig is, there should be a divider between matzah, not just put in some matzah bags don't have dividers in them. So you put in the 3 matzah into the bag, and the preferable way is that it should be a divider between each matzah. And then later, on top of that, we make the kaida is on top of the matzah. We put some type of a little cover, a little napkin, a material napkin, and other people have plates and different plates with different designs on them. but that's the way we do it. So, but the Kitzur Shana is saying, which is the custom of other communities, that the kaida is yocham mibayayin. You should prepare it during the day. Kidei shemiyad b'vayay basic nesses, in order that as soon as it comes to shul, yochel lases, as I say, the b'li'ikov, it shouldn't take away time, especially this year that the clock was moved already before Pesach. So before you turn around, you're not going to start your Seder maybe till 9 o'clock, and maybe later. So therefore, this is telling you this idea, but that's not our minute. Afal pisha b'kol ashana taivu mayit b'kelim noyim. Even though that a whole year we don't display our valuable dishes that we have. Zeichel u'chubim, mikomek v'lel Pesach taivu habes b'kelim noyim kifi kaichai. Vafilu kelim shein tzrichul suda, even kelim that they're not particularly related to be used during the meal, is yisadrim yofer al shulchan l'noi. So you should set them up, display them on the table. Zeicha l'chedes, because when you're celebrating freedom, so you become extravagant and you're not so skimpy. So therefore, in Lubavitch, they have a dish that they belong to the Alter Rebbe, I believe. And by the Seder, they serve soup in that dish. And they pass around the dish with the soup, and everyone gets a plate of soup. Everyone's served a plate of soup for part of the meal. And there's also soup in that dish, and they pass it around, and everyone takes a spoonful and puts it into his dish of soup. Hakaisis yil shleimus belishum pegima. The kaisis should be complete without any defect in them. Umadachas yofer, and they should be washed well. V'yachziko l'chol ha'pochos revias, and they should be the size at least of a revias. This is a very, very important din. There's a lot of people, the average kais that you buy in a silver shop, what we call a becha, is someplace between 5 and 7 ounces. 5 is a small one, 7 is a larger one. A lot of people have trouble with drinking wine or drinking, even drinking grape juice, where there's no alcohol in it. They have problems that there's a lot of sugar in it, and they're diabetic. So they all come with and women many times have difficulty drinking. So the emes is that the best thing is not to use the fancy silver becher that you have, but use maybe even a small glass that's 4 ounces, because the shade of a revias alpidin is, according to what we paskin in Lubavitch, according to Reb Chaim Noah, is less than 4 ounces, 3.8 or something like that.
3.3,
Huh?
3.3.
3.3. Okay, there's different shiurim. They say the rem is kais. Okay, but so now, alpidin, you don't have to drink. Drinking a roiv revias is enough. A roiv revias, there is an opinion in Alter Rebbe Shulchan that you should drink the whole kais, and even if the whole kais is, let's say, 10 ounces, you should drink the whole 10 ounces. But we don't feel so that way. But many people drink the whole kais. That's a popular way in Lubavitch. But the people that have difficulty drinking could just drink a roiv revias, which according to this calculation comes out to be 2 ounces. 2 ounces is not such a big problem to drink. So that's an eitzah for all those that have difficulty. That's the eitzah to take a small kais and drink the last kais, the fourth kais. It says you should drink the whole revius. Why does it say you should drink the whole revius? Because at the end in the Agada we make a bracha achroina on the last kais, and you can only make a bracha achroina if you drank a whole revius. If you just drank a reiv revius, you don't make a bracha achroina. So the last kais we have to drink the whole thing, which will be 4 ounces. Not so terrible. And the other kaises, but just drinking 2 ounces, we're already yaitze the dollar kaises. Over here he says that the last thing he says over here that minhaga lilbash es a kittel. We don't wear a kittel by the Seder, but in the Welt they wear a kittel by the Seder. V'yachina gamke mebayim, she prepared early in the day. Umishu avorach monotzon ein a life shape. Avabasei v'chayiv, but he has to eat reclining. Rak em noga avelis kal kaidim yontiv, kagayin she kaiv mesa b'yontiv. The Havai is first going to be in yontiv or chalmai. Some communities they make Havayas on yontiv also. We don't do that, but in some communities they do. By Ungarish they do it. So then he's not sitting by savor, because that's like a davish, even though there's no din of aninus on yantiv, but you have to avoid in yonim she bitzina, one is she b'fahesya, not to do things b'fahesya that look like you're enjoying. V'halu aima, Bahali says, ki ahalu hu chiyuv. This halal that we say Pesach is a chiyuv. In other words, not every halal, the halal that we say on Rosh Chodesh is a minig. Being that's a minig, so an oval doesn't say that halal. Not you don't even say it b'beis oval. If there's a minyan in the house of the oval, so some the oval goes out, but that's not right. The people have to go out. They can go out of the house, sit on the porch and say halal. But because the oval, it also on Yom Chanukah, where halal is a chiyuv, then the oval also says halal, but he doesn't say for the Yom, someone else says it. But he's saying now Pesach, the halal of Pesach is a chiyuv. Being that's a chiyuv, the oval has to say it, even though he's an oval. And the final halakha over here is that ben eitzel aviv chayiv baseva, a son that's visiting his parent has to also recline. Avot Talmud eitzel rabbi ein etzarach, and I believe that's only if it's Rabbi Muvak, not just the Stammer Rebbe. Okay. Yeah. Okay.